Where did I put it?
Hi, on this tutorial we will be creating an animated lightsaber blade that can be controlled from a group node. I will assume that you went through the previous procedural texture tutorials. If you didn't, you should probably watch them to learn the basics and then come back. I will use an old model that I had. If you want to follow along, you can use your own model or just create a cylinder or even a cube. My blade is located along the Y-axis. To start, go to the world properties and change the color to black. Then go to render properties, activate loom, and change the radius to something close to 3.9. Create a new material and remove the principled BSDF. To make something glow, we just need to add a value higher than 1. To control the color, we will use a Mix RGB node. Change the blending mode to color and set the factor to 1. You can rename your nodes to remember what they do once the setup gets more complex. Now we will create the control for the ignition. Generated texture coordinates is determined by the object's limits, so it will be perfect for what we need. We will separate the y-axis and use a compare math operation that will have 0 as the value to compare, and sliding the epsilon from 0 to 1 will animate the saber ignition. If we take our original light, and multiply it by this, we will have our mask, to turn on and off our saber. Since we are practicing procedural textures and we are not using shaders, instead of transparent it becomes completely black. But don't worry, I will show you how to make it transparent when we finish the setup. For the flickering effect we will use the timeline. We could use a noise animation modifier, but we are practicing textures, so we will create our own flickering effect. Let's create a frame with Ctrl+J, to organize a bit our setup. Now the flickering effect. Our objective here is to create something that alternates 0 and 1 on each frame. Add a keyframe at frame 0 with the value on 0, then go to frame 100 and change the value to 50 and add a keyframe. Select the object and the node, right-click on the timeline and change the interpolation mode to linear. By adding a fraction operation, that only leaves the fraction part of a number. We now have 0 and 0.5 alternating on each frame. So if we now add a round operation, we will get the 0 and 1 alternation that we wanted. We don't want the saber to become completely black when it flickers, we just want to dim the light. To have control over it, we will use a mix RGB node. Using this as the factor, we will alternate between the two colors, and now we can set these colors to whatever intensity we want. We will combine the flickering to the base light we already had. We will do this before the ignite mask. The order is important since we want the ignition mask to hide all the other effects. As you can see, if we change the colors, the flickering switches from one value to the other. If we want to change the speed of the flickering, we can divide the frame number to make the alternation slower. Now we have a way to control the flickering speed. Again, I will add a value node with a name, to remember later what this controls. And a frame to keep things clean. Okay, we have a flickering ignitable saber. Now we'll add the pulsating effect. We want to create like waves of energy that go from the base to the tip of the saber. Since we want to have more than one wave, we will use mapping to scale the y-axis and fraction math operation to create a repeated scale. We already saw how to do this on previous tutorials. All links on the description. We separate the y-axis again. We have a scale from 0 to 1, but we want something that starts at 0, goes to 1 and back to 0 to give the waves a smooth shape. Just in case you are wondering, I won't use object coordinate because my origin is not in the center of the object. We could do this with a color ramp. But I want to have control over the values later, so we will do this manually. We will change the scale that goes from 0 to 1, to one that goes from -1 to 1 with a map range. Now if we use an absolute math operation, that just takes the magnitude of a number, regardless of its sign, or in other words, its distance from 0, we will see that -1 and 1 both become white or 1 giving us the opposite of the shape we wanted. We will change the 0 to 1 scale, to one that goes from 1 to 0 with another map range node, to get the shape we wanted. Now we control the intensity of the pulse waves with the range of this scale. We want this light to add to the base we have, not mask it. So we will use add operation instead of multiply. Now we will animate the pulse effect by moving the location of the y-axis. We can also add the control for frequency and intensity of the waves that we already have. We will again create a value that increments on each frame. Remember to select the node in the object and change the interpolation to linear. You won't see any movement because the increments are by 1 unit, and the scale is repeated so everything looks exactly the same. We need to make the steps less than 1 by dividing the value. And this way we will control the speed of the pulse. As you can see, the waves are going backwards. To fix this we will multiply the value by -1 to change its sign. Now we control the speed of the pulse with the number on the divide operation. We will add a value to each flickering color to better control its intensity. Now that we have a fully functional lightsaber, we will group it and organize our custom node. Select everything but the material output and press Ctrl+G. Now we need to connect all the values that we want to control to the group input. If you don't see the right panel, press N. Here we can set the name, the default value, and limit the minimum and maximum values for each input. You can exit the group by clicking this button, to check how things are working so far. To edit the group, just click here. Now we will repeat the process for each value we want to control. I will speed up the process a bit to spare you the pain. You can duplicate the group input node, and place as many copies as you want. To make it easier to connect the nodes, they will all work as one. If we plug the mix RGB node color inputs directly, we will get a color control instead of a number, so for this case we will add the inputs manually. You can change the order of the inputs with the arrows on the right panel. Node complete. Now I will show you a simple step to make this transparent when the lightsaber is off instead of black. I changed the world color to gray so you can see the difference. Plug the ignition to the group output. Now add a mix shader and a transparent BSDF and connect the nodes like I do. Go to the Material tab and change the blend mode to Alpha Blend. You can also group this nodes to make it even more organized. And there you are. The ignitable, flickering, pulsating, color-changing lightsaber. If you enjoyed this tutorial, remember to subscribe and hit the bell to get a notification when more videos are published. Liking and commenting on the video will help me grow and dedicate more time to this channel. Thanks for watching.